General Motors' goal was not to grow, at least in the United States. Their goal was to expand outside the United States. So the purpose with this was to buy labor peace, to keep people quiet. You know, if you're going to pay people 100% of their salary and they don't have to work, what are they going to protest? What's to protest? What it became was an opportunity for the company to keep workers quiet and invest overseas. They took profits generated in the United States by labor in the United States and invested it in Mexico. Delphi was primarily in Mexico. Delphi became the largest private employer in Mexico, and moved their, you know, they built their most modern research center in Juarez. Delphi also rapidly expanded in China, Europe, and South America. They didn't restrict it to Mexico, but between 1992 and 1999, they reduced their UAW membership 40%, largely through outsourcing. They were still the largest supplier to General Motors, and General Motors was still producing as many vehicles as they ever had. Likewise, General Motors was doing the same thing. General Motors was building plants in Europe and South America and expanding in China, all the while reducing gradually the work here, you know, slowly with each contract closing more plants, putting people in job bank. General Motors wanted to follow the Toyota model, not just in lean manufacturing, but in their production in the United States. Toyota does have plants here in the United States, but they still import about half the cars that they sell in the United States from outside, from Japan and other countries, but primarily from Japan. General Motors wants to also import about 50% of the cars it sells. And one of the big advantages that Japan and other companies have is that they don't have the health care and retirement costs from these cars that they're importing. General Motors can claim they do claim that $1,500 or more per car is attributed just to health care. Well, Toyota's bringing in these cars, and right off the top, that much is that they don't have to pay because they have national health care. If we had single-payer health care in the United States, it would alleviate that problem, not only that expense, not only for General Motors, but all manufacturing in the United States, all of it. The thorniest issue that any union has in negotiations these days, and not just in manufacturing, this is your county workers, your city workers, hospital workers, whoever, is health care, the increasing cost of health care in the United States. If, like other countries, we had a national health care program, this would be off the table. And union members across the board would be negotiating strictly on pensions and wages and working conditions. This is the single most important factor that we need to improve our manufacturing base in the United States. What's frightening about the UAW is, despite years of talking about the need for national health care, here we are today in the midst of this crisis. The VIBA is essentially broke before it's even on its feet. And they're still not advocating for single payer. They're going along with Obama's plan right now, which, while it purports to have a public option, is still this hodgepodge. It's kind of a scrambled, glued together program of a public option, employer options, private health care, public health care, mandates, it's not going to be efficient.
Can we talk about how the worker's been left out of the equation?
She has a question.
Stop.
I know
We have to. His wife called. I had to tell him.
In regards to free trade, you know, the UAW early took a position about local content, for example, that cars made in America, whether they were made by Toyota or Nissan or Honda, should have a certain percentage of local content. This did not go over with Congress. The UAW wanted more protection, as other industries did as well. Corporate interest did not want to get behind that. The corporations wanted free trade. Why? The corporations wanted free trade because they wanted to import to the United States. They wanted to be able to exploit cheap labor overseas. They didn't want to have any barriers for themselves to move production out of the United States and go anywhere that they wanted to use cheap labor. So, the UAW developed this campaign, Buy American. And, I think to the average person, it makes sense to buy the product that you build. For a worker, it's like, this is what I make. Well, I should want to buy this, and that's common sense. Just like a lot of people that I work with at Delphi bought stock in the Delphi company, and to them that was like, investing in the farm. This is where I live. This is where I work. This is what I know. There was a loyalty there and a faith, and they lost everything. Those who did that. It lost enormously. Not only, pension and health care were threatened, or wages, but they lost whatever savings that they had accumulated. But in regards to trade, well, the UAW was saying, buy America. The companies were buying foreign. General Motors was investing in they were buying up whole companies. See, General Motors and these big companies, they don't believe in competition except for the little guy. The name of the game is monopoly. So General Motors was buying Daewoo and Saab, Opel. They were investing in countries all over the globe. Ford was buying, Land Rover and Volvo, and they invested all over the world. So they weren't losing money when you bought a foreign product. They were still, profiting from it. But largely the reason that they didn't want to impose any restrictions on trade is because they wanted to move production out of the United States so that they could take advantage of cheap labor. Now, this didn't just occur in auto, but we saw the electronics industry leave the United States, textile industries, toy industries, steel, clothing, all these industries left the United States, and now it's automotive. The thing about automotive is that it's such a complicated industry. It's not just the assembly plant. There's so many suppliers and suppliers to the suppliers. So large segments of the economy are connected to manufacturing. And what we're seeing then is some communities are really devastated. Now, certain, Anderson, Indiana, Flint, Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan, those communities were so integrated into the auto industry that as the industry, moves out, there is really no way for them to recover.